Good evening, good morning, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you're at. This is another episode of Rise Urban Nation. Today, we want to talk about what does it take to grow a business in one of the toughest industries during one of the most volatile and economic times. Let me take a step further. What if the blueprint for scaling your business came from the military? Discipline, structure, systems, execution. Today's guest did just that to open their restaurant. He helped build a movement, a black owned franchise that's expanding while others are struggling to survive, powered by a team of Marine Corps veterans and built on principles most entrepreneurs overlook. Family, welcome to Rise Urban Nation. I'm your host, Taryell Simmons. And today, we got sitting down with us, Eric, one of the co-founders of Flavor Hills. Eric, welcome to the show, brother.
Hey, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. That was an amazing intro, by the way. I appreciate that. That was
Oh
good. That was
man,
doing well.
yeah. I saw the background, and before the listeners know, before he came on, I was like, man, y'all need to, because we're here in San Diego. I need y'all to bring one of these in San Diego. We got a military town, and we love to eat too. Come on, you and Andre need to get out here.
We got to come check San Diego out and see what's up out there.
Yeah, and so where's your boy Andre at now? Where did you say he's at?
So they're at our Durham location right now, doing some working interviews with some potential back of house staff.
Gotcha. Now, tell me about the start of the foundation. But give me go back before Flavor Hills. There was
Okay.
Marine Corps.
Uh huh.
Uh, how did the time in the military shape the way you think about leadership, discipline, and execution?
Oh man, so that's a great question. I tell people I literally just had this conversation with someone yesterday. I think that personally, I think the military was critical to becoming, the man and the men that we are today. Just for the fact that one of the biggest lessons I think I took from the military is that I think as a man or woman, right, when you're trying to be successful, I think the average person always seeks comfort, right? And so
Mm,
because they always seek comfort, you never realize what you gain by being able to challenge yourself, consistently, because that's where
yeah,
you learn is in the challenging moments. And I appreciated the military because every day I woke up, I didn't get a choice whether or not I was going to do the hard thing. I had to do it, right? And I think that, it being in an environment where you got to wake up and do whatever comes in front of you and make sure the mission is successful every day. And there's no 9 to 5. It ain't no going home, right? You got to get the mission done. And you know that everyone around you is also pushing to get the mission done. So it's a different standard that you get used to maintaining for yourself, which is critical, especially when you're trying to step outside and build something from scratch, right? You got to be, because you're going to endure some things, right? And you got to know that you have the ability or the capability to endure when things get tough, because nothing's good forever.
yeah. And I'm over here thinking about how does that translate to entrepreneurship, and then also when did entrepreneurship enter the picture? Because I could be, this could be my ignorance. I feel like most military people, they go into like another government career like
Yeah,
after
that,
they
yeah.
get out of the military. I don't see a whole bunch of entrepreneurs. So tell me, how did this relate, and then when did entrepreneurship enter the picture?
So it's funny. I actually, growing up, I didn't know about entrepreneurship until I was well into adulthood. Actually,
Mm,
my partner Trust, and however, he grew up in Bronx, New York, right? And he had opportunities to meet people who were able to show him what that world looked like, right? And
mm,
so he's always been kind of a leading brain when it came to the entrepreneurial business world, because he had, God blessed him on a path where he had people that were able to kind of introduce him to that.
yeah.
But I started, so him and my partner Tellers actually started with real estate first. So they had a real estate brokerage, like fully operational while in the Marine Corps. Pretty much had the whole city of Jacksonville on lock. Like it was, a great time.
Yeah.
I started my first company as I had a financial coaching company.
Yeah.
So that was where I really started learning business on my end personally, because I was, helping people with their finances. I was helping people pay off debt, learn about credit, teaching them about personal finance, and all the different rules and things that are out there, what words mean. Like I think I helped people pay off over like close to $1 million worth of debt before I like closed the business down, right? But I learned a lot from that, right? And that kind of came from, that didn't come from, someone being like, you should be an entrepreneur. It really came from me. There was a day where I really took a step back and like kind of evaluated the time that was going into what I was doing in the military, right? Like my first unit, I was working about 7 in the morning to 9 o'clock at night, like every day.
Yeah.
And when I did the math on the hours, right, it came to like, yeah, I was a military officer, I'm a Naval Academy graduate, but I was making like $9 an hour when I did the math, right? And it was like, wow, even though like on paper, like it looks good, right? People thinks this is nice, but when I work the number, it's just like, wow, there has to be a different way to go about doing this, right? And kind of I started asking questions, and it led me on the path to figuring out that entrepreneurship was a thing, and that you could put yourself in the position to generate income, on your own behalf. And now it's effort based versus like, you could be a star player, right? And you still making the same pay that the person that's riding the bench is making, right? Like that kind of, it puts you in a position where it's like, man, like I had to ask myself, what was I doing it for? And like,
Yeah.
so entrepreneurship kind of birthed out of like me asking those questions based off of those realizations, within the first year or two in the military.
Yeah. And I have to imagine that being in that position and coming from the military, with the discipline that you learned, it allows you to stay disciplined in the process, because those first tips at entrepreneurship, they not like for the lighthearted. You got to
No.
stay committed to the process.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What?
Discipline. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Discipline and what?
Discipline is that's become like, that's always been a theme, right? My mom didn't play. I grew up, in a very disciplined household, if you will. But discipline I learned looked different going to, so, me and Trust went to the Naval Academy, and like being there, like we really learned a different level of what it meant to, to be disciplined. And I think that plays wonders now, right? Because it's like a disciplined person is going to stay up and make sure whatever needs to get done gets done, right? An undisciplined person is going to allow things to, based on how they feel, right? Like, so you get completely different results based off of if you care about being disciplined or not. And I don't think conversations about discipline and holding people accountable to being disciplined are had enough. And we see that a lot. Like a lot of people, because of their lack of discipline, don't realize that they're the reason that things aren't going the way they want to. It's not the
Facts.
external environment. It's their inability to stick to something and get it done the way it needs to get done.
Man, yeah, it holds true to a lot of things that are successful over a course of time. What inspired the vision behind Flavor Hills? Give me this
Well,
backstory.
so it's Tellers is always the best one to tell this story, but I'll try to do my best to give it
You
the
got this. You got this.
give it. So it really started with my partner Tellers was riding down the road one day, and he saw an abandoned restaurant, and he sent a picture to my partner Trust, our CEO, and he's like, hey, restaurant. And Trust is like, no, bro, like what are we talking about? And he said, I don't know, but it was around, the location was like a prime location. It's surrounded by hotels. It's like on one of the main roads in Jacksonville, North Carolina. And so Tellers also had a family friend who knew a chef who was our other partner, Chef Morgan. And he was like, hey, she has her own business. She's a phenomenal, chef. She's a beast up there. She was doing private, cooking and all kind of stuff up in DC. She's from DC, Chef
Yeah.
Morgan. And so she ended up coming down and doing like, a tasting, and Trust was like, we'll see, like based off of the tasting, we'll see, where we go with it. And she came down with a menu concept. Like Tellers always says that Chef Morgan is a great example of what it means to be prepared for your moment at any time. Like when he went up to her in DC and was like, "Yo, got a a proposal. See what you think about that." Like she already had everything ready. She had the menu concepts already prepared. She had like all the dishes prepared, like everything that you would need to get started. She didn't have to go make it. It was already done.
Mhm.
So she came. We did the tasting. The food was phenomenal, and that kind of birthed into like, all right, maybe we have something here, and it kind of led from there. The tellers went into the restaurant, picked a couple because we had no restaurant experience, like business experience, but not restaurant experience. And tellers picked out a couple, plaques off the wall for like inspections and stuff, and was like, I guess I'll call these people. And he started making phone calls, and then things just kind of started building from there.
Wow, I think you did a pretty good job of telling that story, man. I was like, to go from just a picture, not being in the industry, and to where you are, that's a phenomenal story. And man, that now I tell him I need him to come make that story happen in San Diego for real, for real. Shout out to the chef from DC. What's her name again?
Chef Morgan.
Chef Morgan, because that's my hometown, DC. So I'm always gonna give a shout out
Oh,
to
really?
a
Okay.
DC
Yeah,
person.
tellers is from DC as well, the DC area as well.
Look at the DMV up in here. Look at we always doing big things. Wait, where you from?
I'm from Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Fayetteville, North Carolina. I knew I heard some country in you.
Yeah, yeah,
I,
yeah.
I got family down in South Carolina, and every time I used to go visit them, I knew I was visiting my family from the country because they go outside with BB guns and they shooting lizards and doing all sorts of other
Yep,
craziness.
yep. That's the good life right there.
Yeah, and like they be like the lingo is different too. Like I remember one day they said, I'm about to go use the commode. I was like, what's the commode?
Come on. I
Or
ain't
they be
never
like,
thought about that.
I'm fixing to do something. I like, why you always fixing to do something?
Hey man, y'all gonna leave us Southerners alone, man.
No, I love it. I love it. I'll make it fun of you, but it be cracking me up. I love it. I love it. All right. All right. Because let me transition back. I'm trying to get back into going from the military service to building the Red Child franchise. That I can imagine that's not a straight through line. So let's talk about the reality of the situation. The restaurant industry is tough. Margins are tight. Competition is high. And in recent years, especially, I'm thinking about COVID years down. It's been, I remember the restaurant business was really hard during that years, and I'm imagining it's probably even harder now. What are some of the biggest challenges that you faced, that you all faced when launching Flavor Hills?
I mean, I think the biggest thing that we face, and I think that regardless of the industry, I think especially most black businesses face is a lack of systems, right? Like most of these businesses that we're out here competing with are utilizing systems that have been built and refined for 60, 100 years, right? So versus a business that's starting out and doesn't know what a system that can support that entity is supposed to look like. And there's
Hmm.
also no one just sitting there being like, hey, here's a package of what this should look like, right? So I'd say the biggest thing and what we've been doing since we've opened up until this day where we got it now, but we've been trying to build the system that will run, Flavor Hills or any other thing that, us as first wave hospitality group, will potentially venture into. Um,
Hmm.
but I think that systems piece is so critical because without it, you can't do anything, right? If you don't have systems, that means you don't have SOPs. If you don't have SOPs for your processes, then you can never turn the processes over to somebody and hold them accountable to it, right? I think a lot of
Hmm.
people are building and they're expecting someone to come in like, oh, that person's been in this industry, they're going to do the things they need to get done, right? But the problem is that like everyone's doing things the way they need to get done instead of the way the business needs it to be done,
Hmm.
right? So that systems piece was so critical for us to figure out because without it, it's hard, especially with so many moving parts in the restaurant, right? You got the front of house, you got the back of house, you got the admin, you got the finance, right? There's so many, the marketing, there's so many different lanes that without the ability to put it on paper, say, hey, this is how this works, this is what I
Hmm.
expect, this is what you're responsible for. You're responsible for making sure they're doing this, right? And then is there now you get the ability to kind of give right and lateral limits to the company to make sure that it's driving action towards the things that you deem as important.
Hmm. Gotcha, gotcha. Like, I think systems are definitely underrated in business because once people start doing their own thing to get the job done, that's where you start missing gaps and everything. So I think you hit the nail right on the head. I'm also thinking about capital. What's capital look like for starting up a restaurant?
Man, so Trust is the person to talk about. So he, as our CEO, he's the guy that does the magic behind the numbers. So my role, I'm the chief marketing officer. Trust is our
Okay.
CEO, so he does all the investing, long term strategy stuff, right? And Tellers is our COO, so he does all the operational
Yeah.
stuff for the restaurants and things like that. So and then Chef Morgan, of course, is our culinary director. So all the recipes and dishes are hers, so she maintains that QC and all that. But
Yeah.
yeah, that we have to get on another episode and then
No,
let
no,
Tress
no
talk
worries.
about that for you.
But now that I know who I got on, cool. You the guy to talk. Well, maybe you might be the guy to talk about the importance of brand recognition,
Oh,
especially when it
absolutely.
comes to a restaurant. Give me, the challenges that you see that you think most restaurants and businesses face with brand recognition, and what have you done uniquely in brand recognition with Flavor Hills?
So that's a marketing is interesting, right? So I don't have a background in marketing.
Uh-huh.
My background is in robotics and control systems engineering, right? But
Wow.
yeah, but I had to learn this for the company. And so I feel like I've been in school for the past, I don't know how long, just figuring things out, because building a brand is really your business's identity, right? And like, and
Hmm.
who you want to be and what you want to be known for. And I think for us, before we got into anything fancy, at the end of the day, as our CEO says, like he wants to give, great food to people on time, right? Great cocktails to people on time, to as many people in the market as humanly possible, right? So like,
Hmm.
we focus on the basics and brilliance in the basics, like we got from the military.
Hmm.
But that the hospitality piece was really big for us, because we wanted to use that to first build our identity as like, bro, this is a place you can go and get great service, and have a great experience, because we go eat just like everyone else. And every time you talk to somebody, oh yeah, that might be okay, but the service isn't that great. Boom, boom, boom. It's always
Yeah.
service what it boils down to. And we knew that we would need to make service our advantage if we were going to be able to be competitive in this market. And as time has developed, right, our identity has continued to grow. But because there's phases that we went through with the business, right? Like there was a time where it was our restaurant would be just full of black people, just one demographic, right? Which was great. We loved it, like people having a good time. But like there was a lot of trying things out to figure out what would work and who Flavor Hills was, or what Flavor Hills was, right? So everything, that's how we got to the live paintings and the live jazz, right? We want to create an experience for the young professional who like wants to go out, have a great time, have a great experience, feel community again. One of the things we talk
Hmm.
about is like COVID really did a number on us, right? It made
Yeah.
people forget what it meant like to go out and interact and experience each other, right? But like one of the things that we've been very adamant about curating in our spaces is that it's not uncommon that you'll go into Flavor Hills. We're known for our playlists, right? So the music, the vibe. So you come in and like you'll see people that don't know each other sitting beside each other, and by the end of the night they're singing songs together, sharing Instagrams, getting ready to go out somewhere else, because it's that community family atmosphere that we created there. But also like it's nice too, right?
Yeah.
We're big on community, right? And like so we make sure that people know that we support the community. Like all our art is from a guy named Christopher Evans, Good Trip, right? So Good Trip
Yeah.
has art out here. So his art is in each location that we have.
Nice.
We have other artists and things. So we have like a rotation of events and things we do. So try almost like the Chitlin circuit, that we're
Yeah. Yeah.
trying to
Yeah.
put together, right? Like so we have everything from jazz musicians to live artists to all these things that now we can have come through the space to create experiences for people on top of the food, and the cocktails and all the other stuff, right? So people know that they're gonna come and get a unique one-on-one experience when they come to Flavor Hills, right? It's not just a black owned restaurant, right? Like it's a place where like everyone can come. It doesn't matter, so you'll see people, whole families in there with babies and up, right? You see people coming in on dates, right? Dressed up. You got people coming in and they're like, hey, I'm on some chill stuff for today. Then you got people coming in and they get dressed up, and it's just like a place where you can do all of those things. But at the end of the day, you still gonna get the Flavor Hills experience and see what it feels like, right? And that leads into the next piece, which is like working on all those things internally in the restaurant, also externally, right? We're figuring out what relationship building look like for a restaurant, right? Because people don't necessarily think about that, but it's actually very critical to, the growth, especially when like no one knows who you are, right? Like
Yeah.
it's not, for a while, you think because your posts are getting a bunch of likes because people are excited about it. At the end of the day, like there becomes a point in business where you recognize that likes don't equate to money hitting the account, right?
No, it don't.
So things can look great and like people can be liking and sharing and all of those things, but at the end of the day, if you're not, we had to learn that you got to make offers, right? Like what do people want? We had to learn our demographic. We had to fix our menu. We had to really start learning who we wanted to be in the space and how we would want them to interact with the space, and then being able to curate that through our menu and our offerings and everything else to make sure that people are getting that one-of-one experience that will make them not only just come and say they had a good experience, but make them want to come back because they can't come anywhere else or get
Yeah.
that experience anywhere else.
Yeah.
And that's been critical to our success, just showing people having that experience.
Yeah, I love that. I love that one that you've been able to create community around this, and it's not just the place I'm going to get food. It's the place that I'm going to get an experience,
Right.
and I'm going to feel that experience, and that experience is going to take me to a connection point that's going to always want me to that dopamine to bring me back because like it's like, oh, it wasn't just the food. It was like I gained a friend and I did this and I I got some good music that might lead to something else that changed the trajectory of my life that I had no idea was going to happen by stepping into your restaurant. And so I love that there's all these elements that create what somebody is feeling, thinking, touching. Like all the sensories are going off
Yeah. Yeah.
when
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
hit your space, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, was there? I was thinking, was there ever a moment where things felt uncertain, where you had to lean fully into like your training and leadership to keep things moving forward?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's been tons of time. I mean, you think about it. I mean, we've been in the first 5 years of starting a restaurant, and opening different locations. Like that's something that absolutely occurs. I think no matter what phase of business you're in, right? Like everything kind of ebbs and flows, right? You reap and you sow. So
Hmm.
with that being understood, right? It's once again just having the systems and the forethought to understand what those times look like, so that you can prepare for them adequately. Because they're going to come, right? It's not necessarily that you're doing anything wrong, but like, there's things, the wintertime, right? Everyone knows that in hospitality, things slow down, right? It has nothing to do
Hmm.
with the fact that like you could have the greatest product in the world. It just happens, right? Like, but also now getting to the point where the systems and things are getting tight.
Hmm.
We can also be more strategic about like, okay, well, we know that time comes every year. Is there anything that we can do to give ourselves an advantage? Because people are still going places, right? Like it's not like people aren't good. They're just more strategic about where they're spending because like
Hmm.
they got Christmas coming up and they got all this money getting ready to go out to everything. So they're more specific. So it's like, what can we offer people and put in the system now to like make sure that when the time comes, they still want to come and patronize our business because we see other businesses that are full all year. So it's like,
Yeah.
how do you get to that point? And now that's it. So branding, like you said, is big because like your brand identity and what people think of your business plays a huge part in that, and like who you're attracting to, right? Because you got to open that
Yeah.
market up at some point.
Yeah, I imagine that's when you get into your Christmas branding and you create this Christmas experience at the restaurant, especially for those who may not have family or maybe have a smaller family and they want to feel the vibe of a big family and they go to your restaurant and they feel
Hmm.
like they're at home for Christmas, or like Christmas experience packages where, like you want to gift somebody the experience of this restaurant for Christmas because
Right.
you've been telling them about it. They've been talking about it. They've been busy. Like, yo, I'm going to gift you this Christmas experience to go to this restaurant because like you need it. And trust me, it's going to change your life, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Nah, absolutely.
Like for my listeners who are listening, there was a couple of nuggets in there that I just want to make sure my listeners get about systems, about building experience. So for those who are listening, what systems do you have in place when things get tough? What experiences are you creating for your clients or customers? Or are you just reacting to everything in the market? And are you planning ahead for when those slow times are going to get here, or when pivotal times that just happen in the life cycle of your business? Do you have a plan in place? So those are some of the things that I got that I just wanted to uplift so that they go back, rewind the tape, and they take some of those good nuggets that you dropped for us.
I appreciate it.
Because you didn't just survive those challenges, you scaled. Um, let's talk about scaling through systems and structure, because Flavor Hills isn't just a restaurant; it's becoming a franchise. That means there's systems in place. That means it's repeatability. That means
Mhm.
leadership. What are the core principles that allow for you all to scale Flavor Hills?
Man, I think I kind of hit on it earlier, but I mean, one, brilliance in the basics, right? Like we understand that we're not given any leeway, right? Like no one's like, oh, this is a young company, this and that, right? So we have to be very Marine Corps about the way we go about, the systems and processes and making sure that they're being maintained, right? Because without the proper, so what happens, right, is you
Hmm.
have most people is they'll have ways things work, but they're the only one to know it, right? Like that.
Mm,
So yeah, everything's working and it's good, and I'll tell you what to do. I'll just tell you, right? But the problem is that like you can't repeat that, right? Because the moment that you're taken out of the equation, the system breaks, right? Because no one knows even though you feel like you're doing the business well, you're actually the lynch point, just like become the weak link, right? Because you're causing a bigger problem than like if you had like, hey, this is the way this works, even for yourself, right? Like, even though you're the
yeah,
one doing it, right? Because that's where it starts. It's like even though you're the one doing it, I still build out the process as if I were going to pass this off. There's nothing that I create that I don't build as if I'm going to train someone else to take it over from me, right? So I think about that and like, can a person execute off of this? Because without it, right, even us, like we're gonna go towards what we feel like, right? It's just a
yeah,
natural human inclination, right? But you can't scale doing what you feel like doing all the time, right? You have to have things in place that are going to allow you to pat, because scaling means, especially in the restaurant industry, you have to scale through human capital, right? Like
hmm,
you can't do that through digital means or things like, there's things you can implement digitally, right? But overall you need servers, you need line cooks, you need hosts, you need bartenders, right? You need all of this staff to make the thing work to scale. But
hmm,
like if you don't have a structure in place that you can train these people up to, it's not going to go. You might get the thing, but you won't keep it, because like there's nothing to keep it running. There's no system in place that you can hold people accountable to. That's a big piece that we've learned in the business, is that having things to hold people accountable to will completely change the way the business operates and how the staff operate or experiences the business as well, right? Because
yeah.
you can lose good people with bad processes,
Oh yeah, that's true. That's
right? Like,
true.
so
That.
making sure that you could do that and making, because it's hard to get good talent, especially as a new company.
Hmm.
People don't know, once again, your brand identity. People don't know who you are, right? So like you got to play with talent that you might not be getting the best talent, because the person that's been doing this for a long time and wants to be something doesn't know if he wants to risk his
Yeah.
career on something, that's new versus like, once you've been around for a while and now people are like, oh, I can see myself growing in these things. But there's so many different small little phases and just levels of things to learn to get to the position of being able to scale to multiple locations, and from the operational side, like tellers can talk a lot. We have tons of different, systems and things that we coined that are put in place from the back of house to the front of house to the steps of service for our, our front of house, the timing when they're supposed to, interact with a guest from the moment a person walks in the door, like, hey, you got this much time, like all of those things being thought about. But also like understanding that like every one of those things has been created and written by one of us by hand. Every piece of, as we tell people all the time, is like every one of these things has been done by us by hand. Like it doesn't, if you
Yeah.
see anything in there, it's one of us typed it up, and it's
Yeah.
like, but also we talked about scaling, right? Is that you have to be willing to do that work to create those things because, you might have to create it once, but I think a lot of people, when it comes to doing this, I'll get to it later, right? Like I might do it later, right? Or like I don't know how to do this, and then so now they just let it sit to the side, and then they never get these things developed, and wonder why they can't grow and scale. But
Yeah.
you can't scale, nothing.
Yeah, this is true. One thing that when you were talking, it made me think about because you talked about the talent side of things, and when you do these things, how that you can attract talent, especially people who may be seasoned vets that may want to work with you because they can see themselves working here because you have good structures in place. It's not going to create a bottleneck that's going to make me look bad on my resume because I'm an all-star player and I want to come play for an all-star team. And I'm thinking about the role that plays in culture. What role does the team culture play when it comes to, a restaurant business?
I mean, oh man, team culture. So we're big on culture, right? Because the military, Marine Corps, like that's like, a part of our ethos, if you will, right? But like that culture that you create is critical because it's going to define how people experience your business, right? Like if you don't have a good culture, like it's very easy to see a place where people every time two staff interact with each other, you could tell they got an attitude. They're a little snarky when they like instead of the family, style of like everyone's together and working together and like they understand that this is a mission and our job is to make sure that we make sure all of these guests that come in here today have a phenomenal experience and leave 5-star reviews and you perform so that you get tipped well, like all of these things being in play. And then ask that question one more time.
What role does team culture play?
Yeah. So and it looks for me like observing it, right? Like it looks different in like the front of house versus back of house, right? Because the back of house, I always equate that to like the military. They back there, getting it in, the plates coming out, they got stuff, going there, they hand, very militant, right? Like that's the way it has to be, right? Because like the
Yeah.
food has to get out hot. Like the guest doesn't care what's going on back there. They know they want their food on time and it needs to be hot, right? That's
They
all.
don't care how the sauce is made, as long as make
You
sure
know,
it's hot when it get my plate and it tastes good.
so, but like the getting a dish from from start to the table is actually a logistical like symphony. It's so many steps to go into place from the time an order's put in to like getting it to the table, right? So culture is absolutely going to define your ability to be able to get things done and at the standard that you set, right? Because if you have a bad culture and a bad climate, people are only going to do what they're supposed to do, right? But when you have a great climate and a great culture, people do what they're supposed to do plus more because they care about the business and the family, right? So they're not doing it just because they're told to. They're doing it because they respect you and they respect the business, right? And you get a
Yeah.
different product from that because people truly enjoy being there. And so now it becomes like just like you refining and watching the systems to make sure that it's not broken, like you also find to make sure like the culture isn't broken, right? Like, because you always get, you can always occasionally get a bad seed that like can derail, progress in a great team, or things happening. So that culture piece will define how things go, right? You need a good culture, like, because it's just like a
Yeah.
command climate, right? Like if you don't have a good culture, you're not gonna be able to get anything done. And it doesn't matter how good of a leader you think you are. It doesn't matter how good your systems and your processes are, right? If the
Yeah.
culture is not good, like it's gonna feel you could just feel that the energy's off, right? And like so the guests can feel it, you can feel it, the team can feel it, right? And until that's solved, nothing else will kind of work the way you need to. So like I'd say that that's a critical focus, right? And like so it becomes now learning what building a good culture looks like, right? Like
Yeah.
do your people feel like they're growing? You know, like do they understand that, you know, they can, when they have questions, there's people there that can actually give them an adequate, you know, advice? Do they feel like when they come to work, are they just there, or do they feel like they're working towards being able to grow towards something else, right? Because no one wants to just show up and just exist every day, right? But all of these
Yeah.
things go into that fulfillment of, and you know, trust tells our people all the time, like, hey, I don't care if you here for a day or you here for, you know, you might be with us for 10 years, right? But either way, I want you to leave here being better than when you came, right? And I think that's a mentality that really drives through our culture, right? Is like,
Yeah.
we, no matter what, like, we want you to be better. And I think that that's something that we deal with. A lot of staff we get with never had someone that not only said they wanted them to be better, but actually showed them what better looked like,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
because that's the other piece, is like most people just say words, but like a lot of people don't get to visually see what it looks like. So we try to make we try to make an effort to make sure that we display those things as well, for our teams, because they have to emulate it from somewhere, and it has to start from the top, right? So,
Yeah.
but being that they see that we do the things that we talk about, like that culture now is like built around it, where like they feel it, you know, you walk around, they would out their chest out, they are learning how to communicate. Like it's so many things that are being taught, but it's not just treating them like numbers, right? It's
Yeah.
understanding they're
Treat them like
people that
the
they're
individual
doing
people that
things.
they are.
Yeah, and that doesn't
Yeah.
mean that they don't get held to standards, right? Because everyone
Right.
needs to be held to a standard, right? But that also means that, like, yo, you just had a baby, hey, congratulations, you know, asking about your family, like understanding, you know, hey, you having a tough time here, let's talk about it. Like, hey, I see you missed this. Like, before I just assume that you just made, let's talk about it. Like, why did you do that way? Huh.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here's how I would go about that. Like, I thought about this way, like in the pick, you know, and it's like, oh, okay, right. So those moments of teaching, you know, there's times where it's like, hey, no, this is absolutely unacceptable. Yeah, come here now, right? But like, that's, you don't really need to do that, because when the people know that you have their best interest, like a lot of times it might just be an honest mistake, especially if the culture is good, right? If
Mm-hmm.
you got a good culture, like a person's not gonna go out of their way to do something wrong. You know, they're gonna make sure that if they did it, it's probably unintentional, and they're gonna be very open to learning. You know, when you like, hey, look, you missed this, like boom, 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 and then it won't happen again, because like, because they respect you, they're not gonna try to disappoint you.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love that. When you said symphony back when you were talking about like it's like playing a symphony, I had a
Yeah.
picture. I envisioned you in my mind like you would, you know, running the symphony in the middle of the restaurant. Now you go that way. Oh wait, there's a clog in the wheel. Let me take you out real quick. Do, do, do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't know why I had that picture in my head. But like, nah, man, like, and it's a pleasure just to watch you talk about Flavor Hills, because like even just from your leadership, your energy that you come on the show with, like I could tell Flavor Hill has a vibe. And I know it's that you got that modern Southern comfort, but you got the energy and that experience and everything else that you bring to it, that you and your team have done. And so I applaud that.
Thank you,
And
thank you.
so now that you know that you've all built something that's not just surviving, it seems to be like it's thriving, it's growing. Let's talk about what you've learned. Like for entrepreneurs who are listening, especially those who are trying to like get into the restaurant industry or trying to scale, right? If they have a restaurant, especially our black-owned businesses and restaurants, what lessons stand out to you that you can give to some of those black entrepreneurs who are really, you know, trying to make it to the level that you are in their whether it be their black owned food truck, their black owned restaurant, or restaurant they're trying to get off the ground? What's some lessons that stand out that you would give to them?
One is, you have to you have to get around the right people, right? Especially
Mm-hmm.
if you're talking about building a business. I interact with so many people, especially lately. I've had a lot of conversations with people about how they have great concepts, like great ideas that they want to start, right? But when I talk to them, the people that are around them that like outside, before they wanted to be in business, those people were like, they seemed like they were great people to have in their lives, right? But once they start wanting more and wanting to do these things, those same people start to become a burden on their life and their thought process, right? And so now, because they're transitioning on how they want to maneuver through the world, right, and how they see the world, because you have to shift the way you see the world to be a successful entrepreneur. You can't see the world the same as you used to, right? But if you see the world differently, that means you have to find people that see the world that way too,
Mm-hmm.
to grow, right? So, identifying, and that's not like going around and being like, hey, what do you do? Just walking up to people on the street, right? But I think there has to be a level of intentionality about the people that you meet, and understanding the value that you have, and the value that those people can add as well, right? Because the value of you and the people around you will determine the value of the things you produce.
Mm-hmm. And
Um,
like you made me think about like when you said levels and seeing the world differently. You made me think of somebody climbing a mountain. Like and I equate that to success because each level of success, right? You
mhm.
you get to this level and you see it from a different bird's eye view. And the people who make it up there with you, they see it from that bird's eye view, and so y'all all can give perspectives that help you move differently. And then some people just not going to be able to climb with you to the next level of success because they just not built for it. The
Mhm.
air is too thin up there,
Yeah.
and they're comfortable with at this level. And so like I always tell my friends, every level of success, I know there's certain groups of friends that are just not going to make it to that level of success with me just because
Mhm.
they may have reached to their level, right?
Mhm.
And that's fine and dandy. That's their level of where they need to be at in life. But the climb that I on might be at this level, and I can't take everybody with me, right?
Mm.
If I'm going to be successful at that level, and that's what you made me think of when you were
Yeah.
talking about it.
Yeah. And I'll say the next thing is that building business is difficult, right? I mean, everyone knows it is not like a secret, right? But I think that what happens also is that when the pressure of getting into business and building business, starts to pick up and you start to feel it, right? I think those are the times that reveal who you truly are. So not the time where it's like, oh, this is great and I'm happy, when nothing's going right, when it seems like everything that you literally own is on fire, right? Like, how do you respond then? What type of person are you then, right? Because that's the person that people are going to see. Like, so the self work that you have to do to grow and being the person worthy of having the thing that you said you wanted is also critical, right? Because I think a lot of
Hmm.
times, we tell ourselves we want things, right? And we tell, oh, I need this and I deserve this, right? But like, when you think about it, nothing about our behaviors and our habits are aligned to the version of that person that would have that thing and be successful with it, right?
Hmm.
So it becomes even more critical. Like, one of the best things I ever heard was that entrepreneurship is like the the best self development course you'll ever have to take.
Mm.
You know, because it is, right. You have to learn how to talk to people. You have to learn how to build relationships. You have to learn how to adapt, right? You adaptability. That's another thing, right? One of the things I pay attention a lot to nature, and one of the things I've seen with nature, and then you can extrapolate that to the real world, right? Like, things that fail to adapt fail to exist
Mm.
at the end of the day, right? Like, and
Yeah.
so that adaptability is critical, because you have to be able, even with us, like, we've had to adapt so much as we've grown and tried to figure out who we were as a company and the things that are like, if we were just rigid and nah, this is the way it's supposed to be, we wouldn't be here right now.
Mm.
Like, we wouldn't be here. We could, because nothing, there's elements, right? But there's so much that has changed from Flavor Hills from day one to where we are today, right? And the only way that occurred was our ability to adapt as quickly as possible, which is something that we refined in the military as well. But that
Yeah.
adaptability piece, a lot of people they think that the change is bad, right? Like, oh no, this is where it's supposed to be, but like not just
Nah.
changing because you're trying stuff, right? But there has to be thought, strategy, all these things, right? But if we do all the things we talked about, from having the right people around you for guidance, to the things you're working on with yourself, right? You're always going to get led, but between that and if you have a relationship, with God and you believe in that, right? The
Yeah.
conversations that you have there, He's going to lead you to the person, or the opportunity is going to get you where you go, as long as you do the things to align yourself with that. So that
Yeah.
adaptability,
But you gotta, you gotta make sure you have strong faith and believe, and be in alignment with the purpose that he sent you on, right?
absolutely,
Because
absolutely,
if you don't stay aligned with it, if you go on your own, lean on your own understanding, and decide you're gonna go this way, it's not gonna happen for you, right? But if you stay locked into what he's called you to do and following your purpose, it'll lock in all the things that
absolutely,
resources you need to start to align.
absolutely. And I never plan. I think that's another thing too. Is we think we're so smart that we can like see where things are going. You have an idea, right? Like, hey, I want to go in this direction, but like things that that place you say you want to go might not necessarily be exactly what it is. That you can't. I always tell people, don't fall in love with the idea. You know what I'm saying? Fall in love where you say you want to be.
Man, I got a similar saying to that. I tell people to fall in love with the journey. Don't fall in love with the goal and the destination. Fall in love with the journey, because
Yeah.
like the journey is going to take you to where you need to go.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You may have an idea, but if that ain't in alignment with what he had,
Right.
you gonna miss all the things that he's putting in your journey to get you to where you were supposed to go.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I love that. I was just having a conversation that I'm having a deja movement with you, moment with you, because I was just having this conversation with my boy the other day. I'm also thinking too, because adaptability. Would you say adaptability is what separates businesses that grow from those that stall? Or if it's not adaptability, what would you say separates businesses that grow from those that stall?
I absolutely think adaptability is a big piece of it, right? Like I think if you look at businesses that have been around for a significant amount of time now, from your Walmarts to whatever else, right? Like none of these things. Look, even Amazon, right? Like Amazon started as a book company, right? And what is it now? If that's not adapting, I don't know what is, right? Like so. Adaptability, I think, is critical because that means you're always thinking and paying attention to what's going on and where the world is going. And I think you have to be able to do that to understand where you can find your unique competitive advantage in the market. Um, is through doing that.
Nah. How in doing that, how important is discipline versus creativity?
So it's funny. I don't. One of the things that I feel like the military didn't do right is like you can't be very creative, especially I was in combat arms, right? You can only
Right.
be so creative. You got the SOP, this is the doctrine, this is the way it goes, like this is the way it needs to be done, which is makes sense because lives are on the line, right? But like that creativity piece is big, right? Especially with business, and we've been talking about that a lot lately. Is having the ability like to be creative really changes how you look at your business, right? Because now you don't just see it as this thing, right? You start to get creative, right? That's why we started to have live jazz and the live art and all these things. Like the creativity piece being in there is hit because you got to be able to think outside the box, especially when you're starting something and getting into an industry where it might be other people there, right? When you trying to figure out what's going to make you different, you got to give yourself that competitive edge. And so the creativity piece allows you to look at things and see what's missing and put your own unique style on it, if you will. Now, granted, you still got to produce something that the market wants. Because if we're producing stuff that we like, that don't
Yeah.
necessarily mean it's gonna go well. But if you're doing your market research, doing all those things, and you find a way to do something to add just that little pizzazz on it and make it yours, and that people would appreciate this different than the norm, right? Because everybody's tired of chains and boxes, right? All the same box stuff. So I think especially now, I think it's a unique time in the world where if you have an idea, like if you really lock in, like I think this is a time more than ever to like make something happen for yourself, right? Like
Yeah.
one of the books that I reference all the time, when it comes to like time that it's called Ryan Holiday. Oh man, hold on.
He's like, what is this book?
The
I know it's
obstacle,
somewhere
the
around here.
obstacle is the way.
What's it called?
The obstacle is the way.
The obstacle is the way. I love that. And it's
So
by
like,
who?
it's by Ryan Holiday.
Ryan Holiday. Okay.
And one of the things that like stood out to me in that book instantly is they were talking about Rockefeller, and like it showed like how every time there was like a period of famine and like the world was like restricting, and oh my gosh, like he found a way to like be successful in that period of famine, right? And then it goes to like other people that have done experiences, right? But I think it goes back to what I was saying earlier about like the average person doesn't, they fear obstacles, right? And see it as like, oh, if I'm experiencing obstacles, then I'm doing something wrong. But like I think that especially an entrepreneur, you have to see obstacles as like, what lesson is God trying to teach me with this obstacle so that I never have to face it again?
I love that one. If you could go back to day one, what would you do differently?
In regard to,
Starting the restaurant business.
well, I speak specifically for the marketing side of things for sure.
Okay.
Because there's so much with that. Like marketing itself is like, that's a whole conversation on its own that I think there a lot more conversation needs to be had on. But I'd say, even with that, like being able to have repeatable, scalable systems in your marketing department, understanding what's important, what metrics are important. I would have. It's tough, but I would have liked to had known that what the systems and things for marketing look like before, especially for a restaurant. So like I think I would probably like, because I did, I told you I've done tons of research and things, but it kind of, that was on the heels of first, like I talked about hiring someone thinking that they would fill that gap and create and develop everything,
Yeah.
for it. But that wasn't the case, right? They went towards comfort, right? And so nothing ever got done. So it kind of forced me to the position to start thinking about how it needed to be built out, so that like if I hire staff back, I would hire them into like, hey, these are your responsibilities. This is what's due on Monday, Tuesday, went all the way down. But I would want to get that in place first before ever having people come in, because I think it would have skyrocketed, and don't get me wrong, marketing is going well, but
Yeah.
like it would have made that experience, I think, a lot better having those things beforehand if I had known, what that looked like.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And now I'm curious for the on the marketing side, what metrics are important to look at for a restaurant? Because I don't think people talk about that enough. I was like, why would a restaurant need to look at marketing metrics? Like, and what metrics are important for the
Yeah.
restaurant to look at?
So I've built a 8 lane marketing department, right? So it deals with everything from ads, right? So I had to learn how to do ad copy, making sure that looked right. What you ad media, the pictures. You have the social media aspect, right? You have influencers and building relationships with influencers, right? Like one of the things that I have our Nexus program, which is like where I build relationships with local businesses, hotels, apartment complexes, and I put together deals and things to like, incentivize their guests or whoever to come to the restaurant. I have the PR side of things. There's all these elements, right? But you, at the end of the day, like I'm trying to drive guest count up. I'm trying to drive average, guest spend up, right? Those things are, at the end of the day, are the things that matter. But also like there's different objectives, if you will, right? Like, yeah, like at the end of the day, we want the business to make money, but there's almost like a pipeline that you create with everyone and understanding kind of that pipeline, kind of like the funnel. They always talk about funnels, right? But where we have even our VIP offer program, right? So like building our email list, right? A lot of small, especially small restaurants, don't focus on, that email list, but that's gold, right? Because if a small business has had 10,000 people give them their email list, well, now even
Mm-hmm.
if you just create an offer and make that offer to those 10,000 people, that's a very different position versus like going and just randomly posting something on Instagram hoping people show up, right? Because now
Mm-hmm.
that list of people there are the ones they've already been with us. They've spent with us. They probably spent multiple times, right? So like that relationship there, you have to approach how you're trying to attract different levels of guests into your business, right? Like the ones who
Mm-hmm.
may not know you at all, the ones who, come occasionally, the ones who like they're die hard for you, the ones who gave you your email, right? There's so many different elements that go into the customer experience, even like the in-store marketing, right? Like the little
Yeah.
trifolds, what's on there, like
Mm-hmm.
what do they have the QR code? How can guests interact with it? What do they need? What do we need them to see? Like, do we have any new items that are coming up? Like everything, it's a lot of intentionality that needs to go into it, and I think that it gets drawn out by social media because we think that I think
Yeah.
social media is one of the most important tools they created because it gave us the ability to market ourselves without the need of all these other industries. But the problem is that I think there there's a lack of a pipeline or understanding how
Yeah.
those things relate to the how the business operates at the end of the day. Because marketing, my job is to get the people to the store, and making sure that they having a good experience. So like
Yeah.
that looks different for everywhere, and but it's made me completely. It made me look at the cities that we're in completely different now, because now it's like, oh man, like who's here? Like I'm start how okay, what do they okay, well what types of people are here? Like I'm looking and now I'm thinking about offers. I'm looking at other places, what's making people interact with their stuff. Okay, so that what's this look like? All right, so they do happy hour, but our ALE laws in North Carolina are crazy, so you can't do much. But like, well,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go sit in this restaurant during their happy hour and see what they're doing. Like, how does it work? Like, maybe it'll give me an idea to now go back from a marketing perspective and put together something for happy hour for us to then
Mm-hmm.
drive our own clientele during that time period. So it's like it's just a lot of looking and
Yeah.
understanding the market, but like it's so much. Man, I could
Man.
show you a
I,
lot. It's a lot.
yeah, like you just blew my mind right now with all of the because I'm even thinking about because as a marketing strategist too, from just being online with the podcast, YouTube, and so forth, but like thinking about like your 7 or 8 strategies there alone, I was like, dang, I never thought of marketing that way. Like the whole experience is a marketing experience from the time you set foot in the restaurant. I'm being marketed to, and I didn't even realize it. It's not so in your face. It's just subtle, and there's a whole market, and there's a whole marketing experience to that, to the business and the systems that you built to do that. Like I was like, oh shoot. I need to go back and look at my marketing. I think I may be doing this all wrong. This brother done got a eight step strategy. And to all my listeners, if you're having the same reflection I'm having here, are you building a business or are you building systems that grow without you? In those strategies. Our brother gave us just a master class right there in marketing right now. So I'm just blown. I might have to try to pick his brain a little bit later
Absolutely. That's what we
offline.
love to do. Anytime, my brother. Anytime. That's what we love to
uh,
do.
um, because ultimately this isn't just about restaurants. It's also about legacy, and this legacy that you all are building. I think is phenomenal. That's creating experience, tailor-made experiences that are changing the way community shows up now, and it's needed more than ever, right?
Mm.
Around food and having a communal place. Eric, man, this has just been powerful. I feel like I could talk to you for days, a little bit more about this marketing stuff, but I don't do the Joe Rogan type podcast where we spend 2 3 hours talking about stuff.
Yeah.
But and you've shown us what it looks like to kind of take discipline, structure, marketing, vision, and turn it into something scalable. Before we close, I heard Juneteenth, y'all got some things popping off. So you gotta tell me about this Juneteenth thing that y'all gonna have popping off. Where can people find Flavor Hills? How they can follow and support the brand? Go ahead, give the family all that info.
Yeah, so we're excited this year, so talking about everything we talked about, right? The systems in place, well, like the marketing systems are in place now, which allow us to be ahead when it comes to planning for things. So, we're Juneteenth is we've been able to put some time in and really figure out what that we want that the weekend to look like, because we wanted it should be a celebration. Um, and we understand that a lot of places aren't going to celebrate it the way it needs to be. So we want people to come into the space over Juneteenth weekend. So we're going to make it a whole weekend, not just a day, So it starts that Friday. Juneteenth is that Friday night. We'll have live jazz bands in both locations, Raleigh and Durham. And then Saturday we'll have a live DJ that night. So it'll be from 6 to 10 Friday night, 6 to 10 Saturday night, and then 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Sunday. We'll have it'll be a DJ Saturday night and a DJ Sunday night as well, or Sunday morning during brunch. So there'll be a whole weekend full of events. We'll have live art every day during those periods as well. So there'll be live artists and people creating different paintings and things of that nature. Just music, great vibes, great food. We'll have some food specials. Chef Morgan is putting together some food specials as well. So if you want to try those out, you have to come get those weekends. So, you'll hear more about that soon too.
Yeah, you know what? I might have to make a flight. My boy Cord and Sharon, they both listeners of the show and friends of mine. They out there in your location. Cord and Sharon, if you're listening, make sure y'all go support my boy. I might have to pull up. Y'all need to have a room at one of your houses for me so I can pull up for this celebration. But go check them out, family. If you in that Durham, that North Carolina area, but definitely go patronize Flavor Hills and show them some love. Tell them that Taryell sent you. And family, if you got value from this episode, make sure you subscribe. Share this with an entrepreneur who needs to hear it. And leave us a review, because at Rise Urban Nation, we don't just talk about business. We talk about building systems and creating impact. Until next time, unite, uplift, and ignite. Peace.